I am Captain Spawn, and this is day 352 of Spawn Year. This is the most graphic and action-packed issue so far in Simon Krydanski's tenure on Spawn, and while I still love his unique, moody, and shady style, it's a little awkward because he's clearly somewhat out of his element. McFarlane said he brought in Krydanski because he was good at drawing expressive people sitting in a room talking. But all of a sudden, I'm looking at a comic where half the pages are devoted to Spawn tangling with hideous half-demons, wrapping them up with chains, and ripping through one with his bare hands. Some of it looks great, but the sequential art isn't always fluid. Sometimes I have to stop and try to fill in the blanks in the action in my head between panels, because what Krydanski does isn't altogether kinetic. His art is best for creating a dark and brooding mood, like a raspy voice in a flashlight creates a mood for a scary story around a campfire. And then he allows the writer to do a lot of the plotting through the dialogue. That isn't to say Krydanski isn't or shouldn't be doing anything to contribute to the storytelling, and as I said last issue, I wish more of that was done through art, but through what he can tell us with locations and facial expressions, and not so much through gory eviscerations. Krydanski knows what kind of book he wants to draw. He wants to create mystery and suspense by hiding things in the shadows, to keep the reader unnerved, maybe even sometimes scare us, more by what we can't see than by what we can, to use the reader's imagination against him. That seems to be largely a lost art, and Spawn is the last place I'd expect to find it, considering it's always been incredibly overstated, often overwritten, and tends to show and overexplain everything. It's frustrating because we don't have writers here who understand that concept. And who is this John Goff guy who's credited with plot? We're still not getting especially dense material here. The trio tests Spawn and he pulls one apart like exploding saran wrap. Twitch goes looking for Al in case he has answers about Jim Downing's supernatural abilities, and Twitch ends up finding Jim in the Spawn garb and pulls a gun on him. What could yet a third plotter have possibly contributed to this? There are more revelations and clarifications about the always evolving Spawn symbiote mythology, exposited by the hulking demonic trio. Man, are they a bunch of talkers. It's almost like they know they're in a comic book and they have information a reader wants to know. Spawn symbiotes feed on darkness for sustenance and can recharge in shadow like Superman flying close to the sun. A couple issues back, Blood made it sound like they fed on murder, if not blood itself, but I guess both are nutritious parts of a Hellspawn's balanced breakfast. And whatever happened to all those naturally evil vermin Hellspawns used to derive energy from? Is that still a thing? Oh, and isn't blood the single most on-the-nose name for a vampire ever? It's like calling a zombie brains. We're also told that Malbolgia keeps his half-breeds detached, rejected by Hell and Earth, so they won't be, quote, corrupted. First off, I'm wondering what happened to these guys and if they are half human or half something else. Secondly, this continues to confirm my suspicions that the entire history of the Hellspawn program is one insane, needless soap opera because Malbolgia is a total moron. And it's too bad McFarlane had to bring him back just so he can have his old status quo again, because he seems more idiotic with every new detail. Wouldn't it be smarter to find a way to ensure your soldiers' loyalty than to make them all roaming free agents who hate everybody? I've never understood this notion of keeping a Hellspawn confused and somehow eventually he'll serve you willingly. Why not just put him in a situation where he has nothing to lose and everything to gain by joining you, like Mandarin Spawn? Isn't a person with zero allegiances more likely to be corrupted? I mean, the half-breed says they're all outcasts in hell and on Earth. Well, there's a glaring entity missing there. What about heaven? The angels should swoop down and recruit all the devil's rejects because he's too stupid to know how to get them to fight for him. There's a possible story development happening in the background, and if I'm right about it, I'm impressed with Carlton for simply embedding it in the narrative and allowing me to discover it before Jim does. It's the sort of thing a reader watching multiple subplots can piece together that the protagonist naturally shouldn't get yet. because he can't see as much of the big picture as we can. With Sam's heart attack, and now the quick, subtle reveal on a news ticker that the talk show host who interviewed Jim has cancer, I think Jim may be making some people ill with his powers at the same time as he's healing others. And that makes me wonder why people like Twitch, in hoping Jim will cure Sam, aren't more concerned about potential side effects of the healing, or that it may only be temporary. Nobody knows where this power came from or anything about its properties, and while I can understand people blinded by the hope of a miracle, somebody as level-headed and logical as Twitch should really be asking those questions. Finally, there's a really interesting development on the last page, in which a representative of the Vatican calls the Pope about Downing's miracle save on television. This is a religious entity that's never been dealt with in Spawn. Yeah, what would the Catholic Church be like in this universe? Considering how far back it goes, what would the Vatican know about what heaven and hell are really like? Might they be affiliated with the angels? Might they use their influence and power to do the real heaven's bidding while pretending the truth is in the Bible and their traditions? Obviously, McFarlane isn't treading lightly anymore to avoid commenting on or criticizing actual Christianity as he has in the past. And I suspect this may be part of his attempt at a more serious, realistic, and sophisticated story. I don't really expect that to ever be what this book is, but it's a potentially interesting element to introduce. Signed, Captain Spawn.